In this video, I'm going to show you a three-step exercise you can do to improve your speaking skills quickly in any language. This is aimed at improving your speaking skills mostly, but it will also improve your comprehension. You will learn a lot of vocabulary and you will learn grammar as well by doing this. So it will improve your listening comprehension, especially, but mostly it will work your speaking. It's a simple exercise in three steps. It's simple but not easy in the sense that requires some work to do. Yeah, it requires you to repeat things aloud and also active recall, retrieval practice, which means effort, but it's very effective, so it's worth doing. The input people won't like this. The people from the cult of input, everything needs to be input. You need to do many months of just reading and listening only and watching stuff before you're ready to speak. Don't listen to those people. You should definitely be reading and listening and watching stuff in the language as much as possible. But it's not a requirement to do that for months and months and months until you are ready to start speaking. You can start speaking from day one. If you have the chance to talk to people, go talk to people. And if you do these kind of exercises on your own, you will do much better in conversation. Conversation with people in the real world should be something that you enjoy doing. It's not the moment to learn, it's the moment to you do learn while having conversations, but it should be where you get to try everything you've been practicing at home. Yeah, it's like when you play a game after training, you spar or have a fight, a match after training all the techniques. I always use boxing references because that's what I used to do. But I was terrible at football. But yeah, basically, doing these exercises on your own at home regularly will help you speak much better, and then conversations will be easier and more enjoyable. So they will go longer, and you will learn more in conversation if you do this. Yeah, conversations are good. Input is also good. If you do this, conversations will be easier, and input will be helpful. But if you complement it with this, it will be much more effective for conversation. That was a long intro. Okay, the three steps. We're going to learn with mass sentences. First step is going to be reading while listening. This is not Russian. This is Ukrainian. I can distinguish them. Maybe you can't. Some of you. And I chose this because it's got a different alphabet, so it's slightly more challenging than learning Spanish or French for most of you. Basically, the first round, what we're going to do is listen, read the meaning of the sentence, listen while reading, and that's it.
Ти можеш вимкнути телевізор.
Yeah, we check the meaning and we read while listening.
Давай спробуємо щось нове.
We keep doing this with 50, 100, 200 sentences a day. You can memorize the vocabulary with associations in this phase if you want. I actually really recommend you do that. It's going to make it slower in the beginning, but it's going to be much more like if you memorize the vocabulary with associations, the second and third phases are going to be much easier. Right? So I recommend you
Ти можеш вимкнути телевізор.
listen to the sentence. This is TV, obviously. This is turn off. You can. Well, I do know Ukrainian already, but you can guess what each one means, or you can also check them in a dictionary, in a translator. So you associate them, you memorize them. So that's going to be quite slow, but you will remember. So you do it with 50. These are 50 sentences. You do it with 50, 100. And I'm using Glossica for this, but you can do the same. You can use the same system with many other resources. You only need sentences with audio and a translation. Yeah. If you have the sentence in the language, in the target language, with audio and a translation, in English or whatever your language is, that's all you need. You don't necessarily have to use Glossica for this. You can do this with your own sentences as well, with your own language islands that you create. You write them down, you use a translator, and so on. Maybe it's not as accurate, but it still works. So, step one, you read while listening and maybe memorize vocab. Highly recommended. Do it with 50 or 100. Step two, retrieval practice, active recall. So you go to the sentences that you read while listening and you memorized the day before, and you only listen and try to remember the meaning. Yeah. So you should look here in this case,
Ти можеш вимкнути телевізор.
and you try to understand and remember what that sentence meant without looking here. Doing it without reading in the language will help you with pronunciation as well, but when you're speaking on your own, but also it will really help you understand better if you listening only and trying to guess the meaning.
Давай спробуємо щось нове.
Yeah, and you do that with all the sentences. You do the first step with more sentences, and you do the second step with the ones that did the first step with the previous day. Yeah, you basically, and if you didn't remember the meaning, then you check. Ty możesz wyмкnąć telewizor. Okay, you can turn off the TV, and that's it. And you do it with as many of them as you can. And then we do step three, which is the same thing with listening and repeating. So we listen to it.
Ти можеш вимкнути телевізор.
Ty możesz wyмкнути telewizor.
Давай спробуємо щось нове.
Давай спробуємо щось нове. And you repeat, trying to sound as similar as possible in the tone, in the pronunciation of all the specific sounds. If it's too difficult, you can read, but it's much better if you don't look at the text or the translation. So that forces you to first, you have to understand the sentence, otherwise you can't repeat it, right? But also, if you're only listening, you're imitating the sounds instead of looking at this and or this and trying to say it. Yeah, our eyes tend to deceive us. We tend to pronounce things the way they should be pronounced in our native language when reading them. If we're reading, but if you're just listening, we're much more likely to pronounce them not like a native, but closer to the way the natives do, because we focusing on imitation. Speaking the right way is imitation work. It's like putting on a performance. You have to try to sound like them, and not only the accent but also the tone and the pace, tempo, rhythm of the language. You get the idea. So these are the three steps. First, you simply get the input. Once, that's enough. You don't need months of input. Yeah, you read while listening. Next one, next one, next one. Maybe memorize vocab. Highly recommended. And then active recall. Try to remember the meaning just by listening. And only check if you don't remember the meaning, if you don't understand a sentence. And third, same thing, but repeating it aloud. And if you do this over and over and over again, you do this with hundreds or even thousands of sentences. And this is not crazy. You can do 100 to 200 sentences a day easily in 10, 15 minutes. And if you keep doing that in a month, you've done several thousand sentences, or same ones several times. So you will be able to recognize a lot of vocabulary, a lot of sentences, not only vocabulary, like individual words, but you will be able to recognize those words in the sentence, because it's much more difficult to look at this.
Давай спробуємо щось нове.
When you're new to a language, words kind of they get like all together, and it's like this is connected speech, right? It's like it's difficult to recognize when a word starts and when the next one starts, and how to identify individual words. But if you do this over and over again, this exercise, it will get easier and easier to recognize individual words and just understand in general. It will really improve your comprehension, and especially your speaking. Your speaking will get very good if you do this. It's like I said in the beginning, it's not fun. It's not Duolingo. It's not easy. It's easy in the sense that you just have to sit down and do it, but it's not fun and it's not. It's effort, but it really pays off if you do this over and over again. If you want to get good at speaking quickly, do this along with a bunch of other things. But this by itself is really going to help you. Anyway, thanks for watching.